How much of what you love and what you value is how you live? Is it possible to strike a genuine balance between happiness and success? For some, just doing what you love may sound like a luxury, but for others, like today's guest, there really is no other way. Today, we welcome the mind and perspective of guest entrepreneur, Grammy-nominated songwriter, producer, music consultant, and author, Larry Dvoskin. I'm Amanda Ashley. This is episode 71, Success. Welcome to Afternoon Cocktail Season 4.
Thank you. Wow, that's a lot of.
Welcome, Larry Dvoskin. How are you?
I'm really good. Just your introduction, I was like, wow, that's exhausting. All the titles.
Yeah, you
Most
did.
people have one title, like, I beat things with sticks and they call me a drummer. So that's a lot of stuff.
Well, you're a very talented man, and I'm really lucky to have you here with us today. Thank you for kicking off our season on such a high note.
Yeah, so I want to say that I love your outfit. I love the piano scarf. It's really cute. And the
Thank you
glasses.
very much.
You look like you're really in the spirit of the season right now.
You know what? It looks pretty cold behind me, so I had to put a scarf on.
Yeah, it does.
So,
So,
Larry, tell
yeah.
us a little bit about you and your work. Could you brief our audience, for those who don't know about you, on what it is that you
Yeah.
do?
Well, I'm a professional music person. And when I say music person, it's very often to have a lot of lists of things that you do. But it's a holistic approach. I'm a creator. So that means I play keyboards. I've been in bands. I've had publishing deals, tours. I've written songs for people, a lot that you don't know, a few world renowned names. Then I started teaching at NYU. And part of this thing is it's like spokes on a bicycle. There's lots of little different things. So I have a company called Do What You Love, and it's an education company like Masterclass, but not just watching something at once and then that's it, but you get to interact with somebody who's at the top of their field and ask them questions and also be part of a community as opposed to just sort of like watching a story on a video. You get to really participate in it. So these are just some of the things. And honestly, I'm kind of as surprised as anyone because I have a single on the charts. It's doing well. We'll talk about that, I think, in a moment. So it's a good Christmas, but I obviously feel very, very heartbroken for so much suffering, pain, loss, tragedy going on in the world. So it's not like a bubble. It's a kind of through the joining with my fellow man that I'm feeling what's going on in the world. And if anything, what I can do right now is just provide a little comfort and joy and fun to lift people up. That's my,
And I love it, and I think about, your whole message, do what you love, I think is really important, especially during these times where people are kind of reevaluating their lives, because we have this time to think and to, reflect on our lives before everything stopped,
yeah,
and how we could carry forward. And hopefully for some people that means doing a little bit more of your love, like we have a newfound appreciation for things and time, how important time is. So I think it's a great message. I love that. I can't wait to talk more about it with you.
and
And so, oh,
it's a
I'm
good
sorry.
screensaver,
It is.
says do what you love. And if no
I
other
love the colors.
if no other reason, it's a great screensaver.
And you know what? You're so colorful. Like so I was Facebook stalking you and like looking at all your posters, your pictures and posts, and
it,
I'm
that,
like scrolling
that
through.
that's dangerous, by the way. Don't look at all, because I go to Burning Man, and I was once, there's a thing with your lawyer. If you have a lawyer, it's called the client-attorney privilege, where the attorney is not allowed to divulge things that their client does. And I have the client-attorney privilege, where I'm I'm by oath not allowed to disclose things that my attorney does, especially at Burning at 5 in the morning on an art car. So I've lived a mischievous life.
I love it. You look like so much fun. I wish I like could have lived some of those experiences with you. The
Like,
artist that you've connected with is incredible. It's mind blowing just to go through your pictures. Like, I mean, all the celebrities, the people you've worked with. I mean, just reading about you and your work is incredible.
thank you. I think that you know, here's a secret of success, because I'm looking at your background. It says afternoon. I had like once the biggest um, sort of accountant and personal manager in New York. His name was Bert Padell, business manager, not personal manager. Uh, and he had handled the Yankees and people like Mickey Mantle, and then he went on to Robert De Niro, and then he had Madonna during Madonna's huge like 20-year run from 1980 to 2000, and everybody else. I mean, just counting, Peter Max, the artist, and I figured this guy knows the secret. Like
Mm.
he's gonna like, I'm gonna like work with him, and I'm gonna go like he's gonna. What's the secret of success? Like what is it? And I figured he would have some kind of E equals MC squared formula that makes somebody a famous artist or baseball player or music superstar. And you know what he answered? I said, "What is the secret?" He said, "If you stick around long enough, something's bound to happen."
Mm.
I was like, "What? That's a terrible secret. If you stick around," I thought it was like go down the alley and see this door and knock on it and say the word swordfish and they let you in and you're at the Grammys. Stick around long enough. So I'm to answer your question about all these stars and experiences and crazy pictures on Facebook. I've just stuck around long enough, and things are going well right now, creatively.
And it's great. And I mean, do you feel like you're discovering? I mean, obviously you have a long career in songwriting, but now that you're teaching, and I've heard other interviews that you've done where you said you had once promised yourself you would never become a teacher.
Yeah.
And am I quoting this right? That your family, somebody in your family had taught.
Yeah, both parents were public school teachers. And so, when you're a rebellious teen, the worst thing is to end up like your parents. So I swore I would never teach. And then I wasn't making a living, and the landlord was calling and the phone company was calling. So I thought, I better do something. So I've taught at NYU for about 20 years, a songwriting course. And they say you learn as much as a teacher as you do as a student. So I learned so
Absolutely.
much just figuring out and breaking it down as much as just sort of pontificating from the front of the classroom.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're all natural born teachers, whether we realize it or not. Like I think we we migrate through life with these lessons in our head that from our parents, that are instilled from our parents, our mentors, and then we grow into our careers and grow up and become who we are. And it's the learning process never ends. But I really feel that when you teach others, it kind of it keeps you sharp, and it
Yeah,
keeps you in check with, wow, I this is like where my knowledge is at, and it's such a beautiful gift to be able to share yourself creatively the way you are. Beau had made a really great quote last night as we were like having an evening cocktail, and he was saying for some people their success. Wait, babe, what did you say? Where some people's success um, starts. Oh man, I'm gonna mess this up. Where some people's success starts is where something ends, right? Ah, never mind. I'm screwing it up. But it
well,
was really beautifully stated.
I'm you know to be in any vocation, whether you're an actor, whether you're a sports star, whether you're a musician, the long tail of it is you do a lot of things related.
Mm.
So, I'm working a lot in blockchain right now, and in the crypto world that, has is very early. It's literally still with blockchain and cryptocurrency, which sounds like a weird thing to people. They've heard of Bitcoin, which is the main thing. It's a bit like the internet was in 1992. It's very, very early days, but it's something that's coming. And the easiest thing I can describe is like it's like internet 2.0. And one of my really new friends that I love working with is a guy named Tim Draper. And Tim Draper is, helped co-found Hotmail before it was part of Microsoft. And he was the first person on a live Skype video in the world. He was first in, he's a venture capitalist. So we look at Tesla right now and how hot it's doing. He was kind of helping start Tesla before Elon Musk. And one of his lessons is you try and fail and try and fail and try and fail until you succeed. And a lot of people are really afraid of that because there's a lot of risk involved.
Mm.
Jobs started Apple, he was kicked out. Then he went and started Pixar over at Disney, sold that for $6 billion, and came back to Apple when their whole stock price plunged and the company could have gone bankrupt, took it over again and made it the biggest company in the world next to Amazon. So, you know, the thing about being a career artist is, you might start out as Captain Kirk on the Starship Enterprise, like William Shatner, and then you end up doing Priceline, travel ads, and then starting a crypto collectible platform. We weave through many different things, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Life definitely takes you down a series of paths and journeys. But it's, the lesson in it all is really beautiful, I think. How has COVID, I mean, this time period has, I mean, I know you had mentioned that you feel like you're at a very good place in your life and you've had one hell of a career. But for now, for most people, this is kind of a downtime. Creatively, what has it done for you?
It's created time and space. For
Mm.
me, the experience that the world is having where people are working from home, clubs are closed, restaurants are closed, to me is like a womb that is empty. And so we have to decide, what are we going to fill it with? Are we going to fill it with boredom and stagnation? Are we going to fill that womb with complaining and waiting for things to get back to normal? In my case, I moved out of New York City early in March, a few weeks before the lockdown. And I was sitting around, I was no longer going to clubs and meetings and dinners in New York. So I had all this time. And there's a friend of mine who says always, look where your feet are. And what it means is, like, what do you have in hand that serves the world, that makes a difference in the lives of others, that is beneficial? So one of the things I had is my songwriting textbook, Do What You Love Songwriting. And I just thought, the thing's been sitting on my desktop for like 4 years. I might as well just, upload it to Amazon Books and put it out. So I did that, and it debuted, much to my surprise, at #1 on the Amazon Books
Wow,
songwriting
amazing.
chart and lyric chart. And it stayed #1 for like weeks on these charts. And I was just floored because, like, I wish I could sound like a genius I wish I was Elon Musk or something and seeing the future, but I just had the darn thing sitting on my desktop for years. If there wasn't a pandemic, I probably wouldn't have put it out till like Jupiter aligned with Mars or something. So I just started using the things I had in my possession that would make someone else's life better.
Mhm. I love it. And I mean, tell us a little bit more about your book. So when you publish that, is this what you teach by, like all your students at NYU?
Yeah.
That's the book that you teach out of?
Well, it wasn't a book until a few months ago. I just, for years, have been teaching, and I'm sort of a very interested in philosophy and non-religious spirituality, like understanding what's the meaning of life and what is my purpose here, the two big questions people have. And so, in that pursuit, when I teach, it's almost like a mixture of like a songwriting lesson and an Alan Watts lecture. It's like a
Mm.
philosophy of life mixed with like how to write a better lyric or a better chorus. So the students for years came up and said, I didn't just learn about like chords and melody and lyrics. I learned about life. Like, you should write a book. And like most artistic people, I resisted that. I'm like, oh, I'm too busy to write a book. But it's, you know, again, the pandemic created this empty womb. And it's up to each of us. It's up to people watching this long after the pandemic is over to say, what are you going to, what do you have in? I think the bottom line, there's a question is, what do you do that makes a difference in the lives of others. Not what's important to you, but what's important to them. And what do you have that either solves a problem, does things faster and cheaper? Like that's the mindset of the startup founder is how can I disrupt the world and make it better? And that applies to me as a songwriter, as a producer, as an entrepreneur. You know, we're people don't realize, especially now, that musicians are brands. I mean, I hate to use the B word because people are turned off, but they are. You know, Ed Sheeran is a brand. You know, the Beatles are a brand. They sell T-shirts and records and stickers and posters and memorabilia. And at the same time, that brand is a highly spiritual experience where people's lives have been played out to that music. You know, I work with the Beach Boys with Al Jardine, one of the three living founders. And when I go to their shows, people don't go just for the music. They go because it's part of their childhood.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, going back to, I mean, your book, Do What You Love, I mean, it's more than just a book, right? This is now taken flight as a new business venture for you. Could you
Yeah,
tell us a little bit
yeah,
more about it?
yeah. It's this has been something organic going on for a long time. You know, I came to New York late. I missed parts of the 50s, 60s, 70s where I read that all of these artists would gather. You know, you'd have Andy Warhol like hanging out with Lou Reed, and then John Lennon would come in, and Allen Ginsberg, the poet, and they'd be sharing ideas and songs and talking about art. And, you know, it was a very powerful and inspirational time. And I thought, like as early as 2014, when I was living in New York, I'd have artists gather in my living room and just talk about things, people writing a script for a movie or someone taking photographs. And it was very nourishing. And so taking that onto the internet, I started a company called Do What You Love. And what we're doing now is we're doing Zoom courses, Zoom things like this, where I'm editing them into little courses, and it's conversations with renowned people. Al Jardine of the Beach Boys just recently did one. I had Charlie Walk, who's a record executive that discovered Drake and Rihanna and The Weeknd and, you know, Ariana Grande, and a bunch of people did one. We had Michael Dorff, who is the founder of the City Winery chain that's in 14 different cities around America, talk about being an entrepreneur in the
Yeah.
restaurant wine world. So it's different. Anything that's a hobby to one person is a profession to another. So we're going to launch that in 2021 with video courses, Zooms where you don't just meet a renowned celebrity chef or a renowned fashion designer. You get to like hang with them and maybe even make a friend and a mentor. So it's a direct connection between star and fan.
I love that. And I mean, to be able to be in a chat with people like that, I mean, I'm sure so much inspiration, you know, just walking into the chat with that, you know, people are, I don't want to say, getting to know the person behind the art, you know, and realizing that we're all real people, right? And these people just have experienced extraordinary things and have taken their careers to another height. And being able to get some advice from those type of people is very valuable. So you're bringing something very valuable to your audience for sure. It's incredible.
You know, and it's not all like rainbows and unicorns and chakras. It also is like, man, stuff is messed up and I'm screwed. You know, we had Michael Dorff on, who I love, who has started the knitting factory, which was a really big. He was literally on the cover of Fortune magazine as New York City's, you know, downtown king, and all this stuff. And he, like, his investors ripped him off, and all this shit happened. And then he opened up the City Winery. And I thought, when I first heard about it, are you crazy? In the middle of New York, who's going to go to a winery? Like, people go to Napa or the south of France for a ride. They're not going to go to like Tribeca. But it became successful. And last year he had $100 million grossing year and was all ready to really go international. And then COVID hit. So when I
Yeah.
had him on the Zoom, instead of getting him inspiring the next generation of leaders, he was like, I had to lay off almost 1,400 people and we have to shut our doors and we just got this thing. And it was all doom and gloom. And I was like, oh no, like, talk to the audience, like, don't turn them away from their dream, you know. But he was giving the reality of it. Like, if you become a musician, songwriter, a singer, an actor, a playwright, anything, there's a huge failure rate. So
Yeah.
in doing what you love, you have that's why I called it Do What You Love, because for me it's not work. Like people said, when you're going to retire, and I'm like, when I stop breathing, because there's no reason to
To
stop. And
stop. Yeah.
it's like I have more energy at the end of a good day of doing what I love than when I started. So why would I stop doing that? It's crazy.
Absolutely. And I think when, for some people, if you tell them just do what you love, right, it sounds like a dream. For somebody, I mean, for artists, there's a lot of starving artists out there. As artists, what fuels our passion often doesn't translate monetarily. So, I mean, what advice as a business professional can you relate to our fellow starving artists out there who are doing what they love, but who are also struggling to make a living doing it?
Patience. A lot of it's I don't want to get too cosmic woo-y at first, but when I approach a year, let's say like 2021, I won't approach it like clenched fist, like I'm gonna make it this year and I'm gonna make $1 million and I'm gonna because the I'm gonna get is a very it's like a cell phone without a carrier service. It's like me against the world. But if I surrender and I say to the universe, God, whatever you want to call some other intelligence that runs the planets and the wind and the tides and the moon cycles, you just say, show me what I'm supposed to do. Show me how I can be of service. Let me connect to you and guide me. Like amazing things happen. It's just a different frequency. We're all in quantum physics, we're all frequency, we're all energy and information. So instead of vibrating at the frequency of like, I gotta get, I vibrate at the frequency is like, I gotta give. And by vibrating in that frequency, it's like a really open door. It attracts things rather than me chasing things. So I would say, to answer your question, don't chase things, but see how you can be of service to your fellow man. And it may be that you want to be Ed Sheeran, but you start off by giving singing lessons or guitar lessons, or you join someone else's band on the weekend and play in a cover band. Like if you're a musician, make
Yeah.
music. My friends play with Billy Joel, like under the normal circumstances. So I was amazed that they would play Madison Square Garden in New York for 18,000 people and play all those beautiful songs. And then the next day, my friend Chuck, the drummer, would load his drums into his car, drive from New Jersey out to Long Island, play in a club in a Billy Joel cover band for kids in a club playing the same songs. And I'm like, I thought, damn, you must really love what you do. Because if I played the garden, I would not be lugging my drums the next day to a club. Like I'd be like, goodbye, Yellow Brick Road, been there, done that. But that's the thing, is like to expand your awareness. I mean, Jimmy Page was a session guitarist before he formed Led Zeppelin. Sheryl Crow was a background singer with Michael Jackson. See how your talent can benefit others and start doing it. That's one of the tickets.
I love that. I think that's such great advice. I think it's true. Before the pandemic, I'm a full time musician just here in Rochester, and I was playing a lot of bars and restaurants, but I was playing out like 4 or 5 nights a week, sometimes six in the summer, and I honestly, truly enjoyed every moment of it. I enjoy like every the different ambiances, meeting people, and people are like, how do you do it? Like, don't you get tired? Aren't you bored? I'm like, no, like I love to play music. I love to meet people. And I mean, to me, it's not a job, like the job part of it is packing up my crap at the end of the night and loading my car. It's not going there. It's not playing. It's just, the stuff I don't want to do when I'm tired. Yeah, it's very true. What has music taught you about business?
Well, what music's taught me about business is that it is a business. And especially, first of all, there are two different things. I just had this conversation about 5 times this week, and it's only Wednesday. There's people who make music, which are millions and millions and millions of people around the world. And then there is the music business, which is a small sliver of that amount, which is a multinational group of companies and people who, you know, who it's a business for. And so there are two different things between being a musician and being in the music business. What I learned in the music business, and this is a weird thing to say, but it's just how it works, is it's actually a very small business. The people that I met in the 90s at the Grammys are now at the ASCAP Awards or the Songwriters Hall of Fame Awards, or still at the Grammy parties after the Grammys. It's a very, very small business, and everybody kind of knows each other, regardless of where you live in New York or Nashville or Los Angeles or London or Stockholm. It's a small business. And a lot of it runs on favor. Somebody I might have worked with when I was signed to Warner Chappell Music as a songwriter might now be at a label and call me and say, hey, we've got this new band. The singer's great, but they need help with their songs. Would you go write with them? And it might be somebody that I've known from 20 years ago. So,
Hmm.
the executive, that is. So I say really, like, look at your relationships long term. Be patient. There's a saying that sometimes you lose it over here, but you get it over there. I can't tell you how many people come into the music business already with the gun against their head saying, nobody move or I'll shoot, because they feel like it's a bunch of ripoffs that are going to screw them. So they're terrified of doing the thing they love. And so they find a way to self-sabotage. And I really feel like, it's going to sound weird, but greed is good. It's like Gordon Gekko from the first Wall Street. Like, the Beatles signed to EMI Records, I believe, I could be wrong, but I read somewhere it was a half a percent, meaning out of every dollar that was sold as a Beatles record, they got half of a penny. Like, that was the royalty for all four of them to split.
Oh
And they
my
also
gosh.
sold their entire publishing catalog to Dick James Music to get on top of the pops. But they made so much money. The people who are pushing them out the door, and honestly, I'm sure ripping them off, had such a vested interest in making the Beatles like their god on an altar. Like, we're paying our rent, we're paying our kids' tuition, we're creating our endowment for our kids or trust funds off of this group, that they were always prioritized, always given stuff. And then they made the money back over time in so many other ways, in touring and merchandising and films and film and TV uses of their music. So I really believe you can lose it here and get it back there, especially now, and especially if you have a lawyer. But you have to be patient and have to be willing to work with people. And so I'm not saying it's good to be ripped off, not at all, but I'm just saying that sometimes the more somebody has to gain from you and your music, the harder they're going to work for it, and the more they have to gain, so the more they're going to push the button for you. People don't realize that. They like over myself included. I'm saying this because I've over negotiated contracts and held people who wanted to help me and pay me out the window by their heels, saying, "Are you sure you want to sign me? Are you sure?" And I negotiate myself right out of them making me their priority to help me as a manager or a record company or publisher.
So interesting. So I have to ask you. I mean, you've co-written with so many great artists. Could you share with us a story of, or tell us which of the artists you've worked with you had the most fun creating music with?
You know, Everybody's different, but I will tell you that, for instance, I'm really good with working with people who weren't in the band that I was super into. So I was always a Beatles fan, so I could work with one of the founders of the Beach Boys, as mentioned, Al Jardine, or I'm an Aerosmith fan, so I could work with Sammy Hagar, who had been the lead singer in Van Halen and is a very renowned entrepreneur and solo artist. And I was a big Led Zeppelin fan, so I could work with Simon Kirke of Bad Company for their records. So Sammy, for instance, who's like, you know, the quintessential California rock star. Like, you know, the record company flew me out, put me up in this gorgeous hotel. He pulled up in like a convertible Lamborghini with the hair blazing in the wind. And he's like, dude, let's go, man. We're going to go. And like, we went up to his house and it was surrounded by redwood trees. And I said, could we go look at the redwood trees? And there are these gorgeous things that are incredibly old. And like I found myself with him, like tree hugging. Like I'm standing there with my arms outstretched around a tree and he's next to me and we're like talking like bros. And I thought, what a crazy job I have. Like I'm sky in the forest hugging trees. And then we went wrote 3 songs in one day. And he's like by 6 o'clock kicking me out because he's got to cook for the wife. And all of those songs ended up on various solo records. One is called The Love, one is called The Returning of the Wish, and one is called A Deeper Kind of Love. And still to this day, I'm getting royalties from these songs that took like a few hours to do. So I love Sammy. He's like a giant kid. He's great. Um, Simon Kirk from Bad Company was in a group called Free. And they have that song, All Right Now, Baby, It's All
Oh
Right.
yeah.
That's
Love that
him
song.
going, boom, boom, like that beat, down, bum, bum. So many, You Shook Me All Night Long, so many classic songs came out of that groove, that feel. It's like sex coming off your record player or your radio. And when I went to meet him in England, he lived in this manor that Lord Marlborough used to have as a hunting lodge. And all these English rock stars, they're friends. So like the first day, I came out of the guest house that was bigger than most houses you live in and went to the main house. And like I went in the living room and like the Rolling Stones were in the living room. Like not
Oh,
all, but
what?
like Keith Richards and Ron Wood, because all their kids went to the same school. So I went in, and you know what? They looked like like they were in flamboyant jackets and scarves and things. And they're like, ew. And Simon's like, mate, this is me mate, Larry, and Keith and Woody were like, oh, hello, Larry. Jolly good. Have a cup of tea, mate. And, I just thought like, I'm like in some kind of strange alternate reality. Like I'm not even awake yet. And the Rolling Stones are in the living room. So things like that happen when you're, in the music business, if you stick around long enough.
Yeah, that's really cool. I was gonna say, going back to that, if you stick around long enough, you believe that came true for you, and I mean, it sounds like it did.
It did. I mean,
Yeah.
I in 8th grade, I was playing Bad Company and Rolling Stone songs in a cover band. By early 30s, I was having, we actually, I don't even have the recording, but when I left, Simon got, I think it's just Ron Wood to play on my songs, the demo. So I have like the guitarist of the Rolling Stones on my song. I don't even have a copy of it because Simon I love, but I think he just did it quickly in his basement. It was okay. It wasn't great. But these things really, the dreams you do dare to dream really do come true.
It's amazing. And I mean, I have to ask you about this because I'm a huge Queen fan. Freddie Mercury is one of my influences. I mean, you toured with Queen and many other bands too. And this was Fandango was your first band,
It
correct?
was my first band. The Queen was a band called Zeno that was signed to EMI Records in the mid 80s. And I was living in England, and I played with a guy named Uli Roth, who was from the Scorpions. He was the original guitarist. And his younger brother, Zeno Roth, got this huge record deal because they sounded like Queen, but more German or something, which is what I thought. But, we went to Newcastle in a huge stadium. We played, and Queen they were, and I think still are, the coolest people on earth. All I got to say is like Brian May came up to me after we played and we're hanging out for the whole day. It was like a huge festival of acts. And he's like this tall. He's like, and I'm like looking up at this rock guy and he's like, I'm so sorry, mate. And I'm like, what do you mean you're so sorry? He's like, we didn't get to see your set. And he
Aw.
and I'm like, what do you mean you didn't get to see our set? We went on at 12 noon. You don't go on until 8 p.m. And between us, there's like U2 and In Excess and Status Quo and a million bands. We're like the little shrimp, in the ocean here. And he made it clear that when you're on a Queen tour, you're part of the family and they're going to take care of you. And, that night, I mean, Freddie was just jumping around us. He was leaping off the speakers in midair with his feet on the ground, like perfect pitch. And, a few days later, we got a call from the head tour manager of Queen saying, By the way, you left your piano in Newcastle, England, which is like Rochester compared to New York City. We took it back for you to London. We found that you have a storage locker at Easy Hire Storage where we store our stuff. So we just had them open it up and we put your missing piano back.
Oh my
That,
goodness, how
that
nice.
was my piano. With my road crew left it 12 hours north and we didn't even know it. And Queen just returned it without even like, they didn't have to do that. Then Queen had a party. Let me just tell you, like I don't want to over joke, but if you can survive a Queen party, like a global pandemic is not as daunting as you would think. Because many braver men than I have fallen by the wayside after a few Queen parties. But you would go there and it would be like, you know, everybody in the world. And they had a jam session, and Freddie was singing and I got up to play keyboards and I think that Freddie was singing and I think that like John Entwistle or Bill Wyman, I can't even remember, from the Who was playing playing bass, and Pete Townsend was playing guitar from the Who, and just all of these enormously successful rock stars were on stage, and everybody's just sort of rotating, and people are jumping up and playing songs, and it was a crazy night, and a crazy thing. And Freddie was very nice and very shy in person. A lot of
That's interesting.
a lot of these people get their alpha personality out on stage. And I know that, having read the biographies of Keith Richard and Eric Clapton, both people were very shy growing up. Eric Clapton was very shy, so he spoke. His language was the music. Keith Richards' language is the music. So their personality as a performer is very loud and eccentric. And Freddie was like that. He was genuinely, I met him a number of times, and even before that tour, and he was always very sweet and very shy. So I know, on tour he was an animal, but not around me.
Yeah. Whatever ended up happening with Fandango? Like, when did your time with
Um,
that band
well,
end?
well, we had 4 albums. We toured with a lot of people. Fandango was a different band than the Queen, was opening for Tom Petty and the Allman Brothers and a lot of the Southern bands like the Outlaws. So that was, in the late 70s and early 80s. But it was a good roadmap for me. It was when the record companies would support a band even without a hit. Nowadays everything is algorithm based and market research based. And if you're not on the Friday play new music playlist on Spotify, you're off the next week and forgotten. Then they would let we wouldn't have so many of the artists we have today. We wouldn't have the Dylans or Springsteens or people like that uh, using the same model today, because you were allowed to grow. So that was a great thing, and gave me my first taste of being on the road and being a reckless rock star. And they say the road of excess leads to the palace of wisdom. It taught me a lot, that I was able to pass along, in my teaching and everything else. Like, don't do that again.
Yeah. I'm sure there was a lot of that, right? So let's talk about your current music.
Yeah.
So you just recently released a solo album. This is your second solo album?
No, I'm actually recording a new solo album now, but my
Okay.
original album, that's called Life is Strange, was released in 2010. Um, Pardon me, I put like a throat lozenge in, and I'm talking with like
Chipmunk cheeks.
yeah, like there's a mountain on the side. Um, so I just put together an album of songs that I like playing and singing for myself, like 0 F's given for what's a radio hit or not. And the title track is a song called Life is Strange. I'd like to, in a moment, play the video. And it's a very, I was influenced by John Lennon, his whimsical approach to music and things like, obviously like his great songs like A Day in the Life, but also like The Benefit of Mr. Kite, which was very Queen-like. It was very like theatrical. So at 19, I went to see this director from Italy named Federico Fellini, one of his films. And it's surrealism. It's like there are crazy things happening that make no sense whatsoever. And I was high at the time, and I was like, whoa, you know, it was just a complete whoa. Did that just happen? And there were all these very elegant, sort of Park Avenue, sophisticated people in the audience, with women with jewelry and diamonds and men in beautiful blazers. And they were sitting there very intellectual while something completely bizarre was happening. And so I went home and wrote this song, Life is Strange. And I used to just play it at parties for drunk people. And my friend Russ Irwin was playing keyboards with Aerosmith at the time. I played it once for him and then saw him. So, okay, so let me go back. This is in 1979 or 80 when I'm a kid that I wrote this. And then somewhere around 1980 something, I played it for my friend Russ. And then I didn't see him for 10 years. And 10 years later, I run into him. He said, what happened to that song? I feel like I'm living in a Salvador Dali painting. Life is strange. Life is strange. Life is strange. Life is strange. Like, and he sang it to me. And I'm like, how do you remember something that from 10 years ago? I can't remember what happened 10 days ago, 10 hours ago. And I thought, you know, that is the universe tapping me on the shoulder saying, record this song. So flip from the early 80s to 2010, I recorded, and then flip to the pandemic, this empty womb where I'm looking at not what's out there, but what's in here. What do I have that would either delight or educate or inspire or just distract people in a healthy way? So I made a little video with a friend of mine. By the way, I'll mention his name is Adam Burrow. He studied rocket science, literally, at the University of Maryland. He's supposed to be working for NASA, but instead he's backpacking around the world making music videos. And he put together this banging thing. And it's like an Alice in Wonderland. Instead of the rabbit hole, this thing is the rabbit hole. Like, I look at it and I get sucked into this world of good and evil. And, you know, everything in the universe is in there. And then I get spewed back out and I think it's all a dream, just like Dorothy at the end of The Wizard of Oz. But then I see things that are from inside the vortex, from inside the matrix, you know, and I'm like, wow, like maybe it wasn't a dream. So that has been translating into a lot of radio action, and I'm on the charts now.
Congratulations.
And so it goes to, so let me play the video. If I can go to screen share, we'll see if it works, and let me know. Yep, it looks like it's working. So here we go. And we're going to go to this, and we're going to go to that. And here we go.
The Nipsey Gypsy thought it was hip. She abandoned ship, she couldn't swim. The roly-poly prayed to the holy guacamole.
Oh.
Holy God named Jim. I feel like I'm living in a Salvador Dali painting. I feel like a Bellini star in a movie that's gone too far. Yes, life is strange, life is strange, life is strange, life is strange. A cock star, rock star, look like a lobster with a rooster's head and fish nose beak. The Gucci Gucci Ruchi's changed her sex so she'd look chic. I feel like I'm living in a Salvador Dali painting. I feel like a Bellini star in a movie that's gone too far. Yes, life is strange, life is strange, life is strange, life is strange. All day long they just wear normal suits pretending they are sane. But when they're alone they think naughty thoughts like vulgar insects in their brain. Grow up down the street, I just couldn't believe it. It was like the lowest perception of melting, freaking out. Romulus read existentialist books in his hotel of doubt. And Spartacus, Articus, just laughed at this whole world as he checked out. I feel like I'm living in a Salvador Dali painting. I feel like a Fellini star in a movie that's gone too far. Yes, life is strange, 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 life is strange.
I love that. It's such an acid trip.
Yeah, it's totally an acid trip.
I love the piano work on that though. It's awesome. I mean, you have to feel pretty liberated releasing an album like this, or for a song like this to breathe new life into it at this
Yeah.
stage.
Well, let me just see. Are we still screen sharing, or can you?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I just want to show you one thing, which is what's really surprising, um, is the charts. That it's like, again, let me know. Can you see this New Music Weekly chart?
No, I still see the end quote from your
Yeah.
video.
All right. So here it is. You should be seeing it now. Um,
No, not yet.
hang on. It says I'm screen sharing. Let me go back to this. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know why you're not seeing this. You're not seeing?
No.
Okay. So I'm going to just stop screen sharing then. It's a collaboration. Like I just had this idea of the Matrix, where you go into the Matrix or Alice in Wonderland or something, and the video director created that thing. And I think that what's so fulfilling is that 2021 has been so messed up that like a song called Life is Strange just seems to fit the times. It found its time as opposed to me forcing the time. People relate to something that has, I feel like I'm living in a Salvador Dali painting. I feel like I'm living in a movie that's so bizarre. I mean, that's the year we've just had. So it really fits, and it's charting. And I have these charts that are coming up that are, it's the weirdest thing, but it's charting. So I'm thrilled and grateful to do art, and just for art's sake.
Absolutely. I mean, going back to like what I was saying, like being liberated in a way, like you were saying, it's not about you took this moment to release an album that it's not about trying to make it on the charts, right? Even though that's happening,
Yeah.
it's that wasn't your goal. Your goal was to put out work that you were proud of, that you just felt like represented your spirit, and I love that you did that. And I'm happy for you. Congratulations on your success, and then I hope it continues to climb.
Well, the message that I want to send to people who are listening and watching now or later is that a man just passed by you behind you in the screen. In addition to that, if I can do it, I'm 62 years old. I may not look that age on Zoom, but if I can do it, so can each and every one of you. Like this is a dream. This is like a message in a bottle, or, Rip Van Winkle or something. This is a dream I had a long time ago. I, put off to the side and let it simmer, and did other things, played in other bands, did session work, wrote songs for other people, taught, did things, but picked it back up and fresh and with renewed energy. And if I could do it, any one of you can do it. There's no reason why you couldn't be a successful person at cooking, at fashion, at painting, at starting to sing. And in my case, like if I do it just for the fulfillment of doing great work, other people will find its right place in the world. So the first thing with this is, how do I do really quality work? The second side of it is, it's a business, as you talked about. And so I have wrangled like you wouldn't believe. Like there's a particular um, platform online that is one of the most prestigious in the world. And I've emailed people who work there who do, who are gatekeepers who write about new artists. And I just, even watching the video now, got an idea to tweet at one of the influencers there and just send them the link to the video because they haven't answered the email. So I also believe if you don't ask, the answer is no. You know,
Yeah.
my friend is doing that as it's the title of his book. If you don't ask, the answer is no. So the worst that can happen is they just don't answer. The best that can happen is I get a write up in a very, very prestigious newspaper that's worldwide. And, so you also have to be a hustler. I mean, I will tell you this, like, good things come to those who hustle, is a big saying that people adhere to.
I definitely believe that. I really do believe hard work does pay off, whether, I mean, and to everybody, I mean, I'm curious to see what you think about, I mean, we've been talking about success, right? But how has success been redefined for you as you've grown, in your career and in life? I mean, you've experienced success on so many different levels. What does success look like to you now?
Having fun, not working too hard, but really making a difference in the lives of others. My real mission statement right now is to be of service to other people. So when I have that, it could be opening the door for someone, giving someone who's homeless some food to eat. Yesterday, I was in a pizza parlor up here near where I live in Rockland County, and a guy came in while we were sitting there, like in a very suburban area that is fairly not affluent, but very solidly middle class. And he just came up to me like, can you please give me some money, for food? And so I said, I'll do something better. We're sitting in a restaurant. What do you want? Like, go to the menu and pick, and I'll buy it for you. So my being of service and success is as much buying that lunch for that guy as it is writing a song for one of the Beach Boys or putting out my own video and having it be on the charts. It's really nice and pleasant. It makes people on Facebook do a lot of likes when you show them a chart position that's in the top whatever. But it's a combination of things. It's a life fulfilled, and only you can define what that fulfillment is. Everybody has, some people have a problem for every solution. I try to find a solution for every problem, and that's just me.
Amen to that, Larry. I couldn't agree with you more. I think fulfillment plays a really big part in how I define success, and I think it's something worth considering for those. I think a lot of people see fame, fortune, riches, like, I mean, everybody has different goals in life. And it's not for us to judge that what that person's doing isn't successful, in comparison to another. Everybody has to have their own definition of what success looks like to them and work towards that fulfillment and achieving what those goals are. What do you believe is the most valuable lesson you've drawn from your experiences?
Let me rewind for 1 minute and
Sure.
continue on the like, what does success look like? Um, Last night I finished there's a movie about the Bee Gees, the group the Bee Gees, on HBO called How Do You Mend a Broken Heart? And you watch this movie where these people came from Australia with nothing, and they moved to England, and they signed with the manager of the Beatles, his company, and then went on to have huge success in the 1960s as an early group with Lonely Days and How Do You Mend a Broken Heart, all these different things, and then came through again in the 70s with Saturday Night Fever. And just there was a time when like 5 of the top 10 records were all Bee Gees, like you couldn't get away from them. And then Disco Sucks came in and they lost everything. And at the end now, the youngest member of the Bee Gees, Andy Gibb, had passed away of a drug addiction at 30. And then Robin Gibb also passed away, and then Maurice Gibb. So the only one left is Barry Gibb, one of 4. And at the very end of the movie, when you see they've scaled the heights of fame and fortune that anyone could possibly dream who's a musician, and I'll try to say this without crying. He just said that if he could trade all of that fame he would just have his brothers back.
Oh,
Like to be poor and no one ever knowing him. He would trade all of that to have Maurice, Robin, and Andy back. So everyone's measure is different, you know. And what I've learned from success is that the people who do success the longest are very competent people. You know, they show up on time, they communicate well, they are really good with other people. They usually, for the most part, like make long-term relationships and don't go through life screwing other people over because they have to see those people the next year and the next year. Um, so what I've learned from success is that it's a platform for you to have a more fulfilling life, but it's not the end. It's not the top of the mountain. It's just the sort of elevator through life.
yeah. So true. You know, the one thing you can never buy back is your time.
Yeah.
You know, and I think this slowdown has really pulled that into focus for a lot of people. It has for me. You know, like, and it makes you reconsider how you're living your life and how you balance that time efficiently. That's the hardest part of adulting for me as
Yeah.
I journey through my life is, you know, just trying to balance my time with what matters most to me. And my career means a lot to me, but I try to fuse both, like everything as together as best as I can to be able to do what I love, you know, and that's where that fulfillment I think comes from. Larry, at the end of the day, what makes you most proud to be you?
Um, I think it's my not taking things too seriously, being kind of a joyful person. You know, I've done enough 30 years of meditating and yoga and reading a lot of inspirational books that I have, you know, a lot of people are worried and paranoid and always like anxious. And like, I think like sometimes between my two ears, if you were able to have a scanner that looked inside, you just see blue sky and clouds. I think that, you know, I generally enjoy life, and I'm just grateful for it. And I know, especially now, I regularly am just praying for the world. I'm praying for us to wake up and to see that we're all drops in the same ocean of mankind. We're not separate. The
Yeah,
separate has to stop because it's suicidal and it's homicidal. It's like the ocean if it fought itself. If one drop said I'm more important than the other drop of water, the ocean would be chaotic. It wouldn't be moving in rhythms. It would be moving against itself and churning. And that's what we're doing. So I'm constantly praying. I'm constantly, I'm about to donate money to the World Central Kitchen, which is feeding the doctors and nurses on the front lines and firefighters. I'm going to donate enough for them to have, I donate enough for them to have about 1,200 meals. Uh, a while back. When the book came out, I gave 100% of the royalties to the World Central Kitchen, Chef Andres. They're saving lives. They just go and feed people, no questions asked. You show up, you need food. Here's a great home cooked meal, and they're employing chefs and waiters and people to do it and deliver it to the hospitals and the front line to the firefighters. So that's what gets me off. And I do, before we end, want to give everyone who's watching or may watch in the future contact ways of finding me and all of that stuff.
I was just going to ask that. Yes, please share with us. Where could they download your single? Where can they read your book and download your book?
Yeah. So again, my name is Larry Dvoskin. It's spelled there D like David, V like Victor, Oskin. So there is a larrydvoskin.com where people can sign up to learn when we're doing new Zooms with some of these world famous rock stars and filmmakers and stuff. And a lot of that is free, and there's free information, free videos there. People can go to YouTube and just type in Life is Strange, Larry Dvoskin. And I please implore you, please, if you like it, please subscribe to the channel and leave a comment and a like and pass it on. And of course, I'm on Spotify and iTunes and Tidal and Deezer and this thing and that thing, and you know, probably things I don't even know about. So I'm kind of easy to find. You know, like a lot of people are hiding. I make it. I'm like hiding in plain sight. If you Google Larry Dvoskin, you'll just find a ton of stuff, including emails and places to find me. And I'm just so honored to be here with you because you've
Oh,
really been, this is such a beautiful thing. I mean, it's
thank
this,
you. It means a lot. I mean,
I
yeah,
mean,
this is all derivative of what I do and what I love, you know. And I thank you for the pleasure in sitting with you and having you share your stories and your intimate thoughts with me. I really appreciate you
yeah,
so much.
yeah, I'm going to take this is like kicking it old school. And and say, so how will my friends and colleagues find this? Will it be posted for people to look?
Yes, yes, and for our audience back home too. So our afternoon cocktail shows after it's done airing live.
Right.
Afternooncocktail.show is our website, and all our archives are there. And this will be uploaded to all podcasting networks as well. So you can find us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, all those Deezer, all that stuff as well. So yeah,
So
make sure you guys after today's episode you catch up on your inspiration with us because we have 70 episodes before this one too.
now I got to tell you, um, I've laughed with you in the last hour. I've cried with you in the last hour, and
Aw.
and sung with you in the last hour a little, like life is strange. So that doesn't happen often. So you have something really beautiful and magical happening here.
Oh, Larry,
Uh,
thank you.
and I hope to become friends with you because it's one of the lessons of success is don't just see people going by, like kind of let them in, like say there's a seat in my car of life here, come on in. And so I hope we get to know each other more and become friends and hang out and write a great song together and do all
Oh
kinds.
my God, I'd be honored. I would love to write a song with you. Yes, that sounds amazing. And yes, please keep in contact.
Yeah,
So Larry, you want to hear what I think about success? I'm
sure.
gonna share my
Absolutely.
little end spiel. All right.
Yep.
Kind of what we were talking about. Everyone's measurement of success will differ, and I think our measurement will continue to morph as we grow and as our goals and aspirations change. For some, success could mean being a CEO of $1 billion company, or having a record deal, or going viral. While for others, it could mean the complete opposite, like starting a family, working a stable job, or being a homeowner. What if we stopped for a moment to think about what success means in terms of happiness and fulfillment? What does it mean to you to truly do what you love? And if you're short on time, how can you incorporate more of what you love into your daily routines? It's all about working really hard at playing the balancing game. Consider whether or not the time you're dedicating to your professional life is benefiting your growth. Do you feel challenged in all the right ways? Do you feel as if you're meeting your personal and professional expectations and goals and meeting with those small milestones along the way? Is your family and friends and the things that are important to you on the short end of the receiving line because of an imbalance in time? Is the fulfillment of doing more of what you love truly worth the gamble of comfort and stability? Don't allow the fear of instability to block you from making more time to do more of what makes you, you. As the world continues to be somewhat paused, take this moment to reflect and to consider what needs to be altered in order to make more time available for things that bring you joy and happiness and that fulfillment. Because as humans, doing what we love is a major contributor to true happiness in life. We've been given one life to make the most of, so make your happiness a priority and may success follow. Again, Afternoon Cocktail is available on all podcasting platforms, so be sure to catch up on your inspiration and keep spreading good energy to those around you. Huge thank you to Beau Productions and to our local sponsors, Blades Catering, Rochester Woman Online, Chris Sirianni at IT Insights Rochester, and Bridgett Hoag of Empire Realty. And also shout out to our Patreon sponsors, James Farley and Northwestern Mutual, and to Maiden Voyage Studios. Without these guys, they're keeping us going here. So thank you so much and for supporting our little indie podcast. And we will see you guys back here Friday with Mr. Brian Lindsay. Thank you so much again, Larry. You're a delight. See you guys next time.
What a beautiful thing. Thank you. Bless
Thank you.
Merry Christmas and happy holidays.
Merry Christmas.
Woo!